Hi, everyone. It's Kat. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you're anything like me, the past week and a half have felt pretty heavy. And that's on top of a couple years that have been pretty heavy in a lot of ways. As a society, especially living in the US, we've been through a lot. We've been through a pandemic that came on the heels of a couple years, or maybe more than a couple of years, of what has felt like a lot of insecurity and unrest, at least on the federal government level for us. Coming off the heels of that, we're seeing spikes in violence. There's a lot of kind of civil unrest around the disruption, for lack of a better term, of rights, or maybe we're really starting to highlight more the rights of folks in our country that have really continued, unfortunately, to be violated both on a personal and systematic level. Um, and the last, I would say, week and a half has really just highlighted, um, I think, a lot of frustrations, upset, maybe sense of helplessness and hopelessness, anger, grief. I think the list goes on and on and on. And I think for a lot of us, any of the tragedies that have happened within the past couple weeks in the US, any one of those could have felt really, really heavy, but to have multiple ones happen one after the other, and especially the one that happened about a week ago, where we lost so many children, I think really landed heavy on the hearts of so many of us. Um, and so as I was thinking about what I wanted to speak about today, I was trying to figure out what to kind of narrow in on, right? Because I'm trying not to make these videos too terribly long, but also want them to be helpful at the same time. And I know in my last video, I really addressed dealing with anger. It's not as comprehensive as it maybe could have been, but at least would give folks some tools if your response to these tragic events have been anger. Um, and there's lots of other responses, right? There's sadness, there's frustration, like I said, the helplessness and hopelessness, which might lead you to feel down, especially if you're somebody who's prone to depression. Um, but what I wanted to focus in on today, I thought I would speak from my personal experience, especially because in talking to people over the last week or so, I find that a lot of people are having this similar reaction, um, is this idea of feeling a little bit outside of your body. Now, in psychology, we use the term dissociation for people that are really out of touch with their body. And I hesitate a little bit in using that term just because I don't want to pathologize it if this is something that um, is maybe not happening on a regular basis for you, or isn't so severe that it's impacting your functionality, if that makes sense. But even without fully kind of dissociating from our body, where we're really not connected to our body and kind of almost feeling like we're hanging out in a different space, still, when we experience something that feels traumatic, and I would, definitely classify what happened, especially with the school shooting, as something that has probably felt traumatic. To a lot of people, both that and the shooting that happened in Buffalo, because even when we are not present, physically present for an event, being exposed to, all the visuals that we see on TV and the papers, hear, the audio that we hear, listening to the news, listening to the radio, and then just the experiences of kind of reliving that as we talk about it with others, that can actually be traumatic for us, and we can call that secondary or vicarious trauma. Um, and so having those experiences can cause us to kind of separate a little bit, right? And in a lot of ways, that's a protective response because we're not fully able to just absorb. I saw a great great quote where someone said, we're not meant to absorb this much trauma. We're not meant to absorb this much violence, and that's why both myself and a lot of people I talked to, especially in the days immediately following the shooting in Texas, felt like they were walking around in a fog. It was hard. See, I'm even experiencing it now, having trouble focusing, having trouble finding the words for what they wanted to say, and feeling like they're just not quite in their body. They may be kind of going through the motions because we all have our responsibilities every day, right? We have to wake up, and some of us have children or elderly parents to take care of. Some of us are going to work. Some of us are, have chores around the home. We all have things to do, but I have found for myself and a lot of other people that it just felt like we were there, but not there, if that makes sense. And so, what I really wanted to focus on today is what you can do in those circumstances when you really feel like you're maybe a little outside your body, you're really foggy headed, and you need to ground. And so, what I often recommend to folks, and I think this is pretty common among both therapists and also yoga practitioners, meditation teachers, and probably in like Tai Chi and other similar fields, is that we talk about how. Ways that you can use your senses, right? We have at least the five senses that we refer to on a regular basis that we can employ to help us ground ourselves in the present moment if we're having these experiences of feeling like we're either starting to feel anxious, or if you are somebody that suffers from, diagnosed PTSD, if you're having flashbacks, um, if you're feeling like you're starting to escalate into a panic attack, or maybe you're not having those symptoms of what we call hyperarousal, but at least you are feeling a little detached from your body. So I wanted to kind of run through, and again, I wish I could spend more time on each of these and maybe I can break them down in a future video, but just to kind of summarize some of what you might be able to use, and also just instruct you in a quick breathing practice towards the end of the video. So the first suggestion that I have that I really like is that if you're feeling like you're having a lot of trouble focusing, or you're starting to kind of drift out of your body a little bit, is to look around, either if you're in a room or outside, and identify a few objects, maybe 3 to 5 objects, and identify them by name, and talk about some of their qualities. And it's really helpful if you can actually say this out loud, because then you're also employing both your sense of sight and your sense of hearing. So, for example, I could say, and I'm kind of like looking behind myself, but I'm looking at my curtains behind me. And I could say, okay, I'm looking at my curtains. They are green. They have kind of a palm frond pattern on them. Maybe I can even employ my sense of touch and touch the object and say they feel soft. So thinking about, maybe again, looking for 3 to 5 objects and then using 3 to 5 descriptors as you're talking yourself, in a calm manner through them. Another example might be a lamp. So you could say, I'm looking at a lamp. It has a bulb that is round. The light that comes from it is maybe yellow in color. Again, just thinking about how would I describe this to somebody else, but you're really describing it to yourself to help bring yourself back into the present moment. Then another idea is if you want to use and I'm going to peek at my notes really quickly. You have to excuse me, my sense of touch. So one thing that I really love, and we have, I feel like, various versions of this in our house, are different forms of like sandbags, eye pillows, or weighted blankets. And that's because the heaviness of these items can help calm your nervous system, but also just the pressure of it can help bring you back into your body. So, for example, I brought with me to share with you my daughter's weighted blanket. And this one isn't terribly big. My husband and I actually have one for our bed as well, just to help with sleep. But if you have kind of a smaller one or even a lap size blanket, some kids use those a lot if they have sensory issues or are diagnosed with something such as ADHD, because it helps them focus. But you can take something like this, and if it's big enough, you can just wrap it around yourself, like wrap it around your shoulder here, back of your neck, to get that feeling of weight on you, if that feels comfortable. Or you can even maybe fold it up a little bit and put it in your lap. Or if you have something like an eye pillow, you can just kind of hold it in your hands. Or I guess if you're laying down, you could put it like on your chest or your abdomen. Um, I've even seen people take like a tube sock. You can fill it with rice or rice and lavender or whatever you have, some sand, kind of create your own rice or sand bag to kind of weigh you down. And that can be really helpful because, again, like I said, calming to the nervous system. And it also gives you that sense of weight that can kind of bring you back into your body. Another kind of similar idea would be if you have a loved one around that you can ask for a hug. Sometimes like the tightness of the hug, or you can even do a self hug, right? Because as one of my teachers says, especially if you kind of close your eyes or adopt a soft gaze and you're giving yourself a hug, your body doesn't know it's coming from you. So it could give you that like comforting sense of being hugged and held, and also that pressure can be really helpful for activating the nervous system. Another idea is eating something really warm and nourishing. So, thinking like warm oatmeal or like a porridge, or you can make something kind of like a rice dish that is warm and has like warming spices. Something very popular in Ayurveda. It's called khichdi. One of the ways to spell it, there's multiple, but one is Kitchari, and I'll try to post or link a recipe, but something like that. It's a combination of rice and lentils and warming spices, and sometimes people throw in cooked vegetables as well. But something just really warm and nourishing, like a food like that, or even a warm drink like some tea or hot cocoa or something like that. Can actually give the sensation of grounding in your body and in your stomach between kind of the weight of the food, but also the warmth to your body. Um, and somewhat along those lines too is if you want to think about doing a self massage, you can do your feet, you can do or do your whole body or your hat. You can oil your hair and your scalp, especially if you use something like untoasted sesame oil. That's a warming oil. You get the warmth, but you also get the physical touch again of your own body, bringing you back in. Another idea that I really love, sometimes this takes a little bit more time, but if you have the time, is to go outside, take off your shoes, your socks, and then plant your feet on the earth. And you're really making that connection with the earth, which can be very powerful. And then just being outside can really lift. If you're somebody that knows a little bit about energy, it can actually really elevate your energy. But even just having like the sensation of the grass or the dirt under your feet, and maybe looking around at the trees or the plants or the flowers, whatever is around, can be really soothing. And if you like, you can even sort of drop your gaze or close your eyes and imagine roots growing out from your feet into the ground and feeling that real connection. Or if you prefer, instead of standing, you can sit and kind of do the same kind of visualization, imagining roots growing down into the earth and really securing you. And as you breathe slowly, just letting your muscles relax as you kind of sink into the earth can be really soothing. You can also try doing some yoga practices, either outside or inside, that are very grounding. So, like that seated pose, seated cross legged pose is a great one. Squats are great. You can either do that unsupported or with like a yoga block or bolster or something underneath you. Another great one is child's pose, if you're familiar with that, because actually the pressure of your legs into your abdomen really helps the belly relax, which is great for that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest response to kick in. Um, and the last thing that I'll mention, just so I don't go too long today, is different breathing practices can be really helpful too. So the one that I landed on that would be good to show you today is called alternate nostril breathing. And the reason I picked this one is because it can be both calming but a little bit activating at the same time, because you're alternating between your two nostrils. You're actually activating both hemispheres of the brain. So you're activating both kind of the left brain that's more calming and the right brain that's a little bit more alert. And so that can be really balancing. And so it can really work even whether your response to something difficult is to be more anxious and you need calming, or to go a little bit more into what we call hypoarousal, or what feels a little bit more like being down or depressed. It can help wake that up and also encourage communication between the two hemispheres of the brain, which can be really helpful. So before this video runs too long, let me go ahead and lead you in that practice just so you get a chance to experience it, and then you can do a longer version of it on your own if you'd like. So with a practice like this, I would get into a comfortable seat. So you can either sit in a chair like I am with your feet planted on the ground, or you can sit cross-legged. I feel like laying down, it might be a little bit hard to do. So it's better if you're sitting upright. And just as a disclaimer, if you are having, some trauma reactivity, like I said, like feeling panic attacks, flashbacks, anything like that, please don't close your eyes all the way, because that can actually be really triggering. It would be better to either keep your eyes fully open or kind of look down and adopt a soft gaze. I'm going to keep my eyes open while I'm doing this, but traditionally, most people either close their eyes or adopt a soft gaze, just whatever is comfortable for you. But like I said, if you are experiencing trauma reactivity, I would avoid closing your eyes all the way, so as not to trigger a panic attack or something along those lines. So what you want to do is go ahead and either close your eyes or adopt a soft gaze, and just settle into your deep belly breathing. So thinking about drawing your inhale down into your abdomen as you really expand through the belly, the waist, and the low back. And then slowly exhaling as you deflate the belly, the low back, and the side waists. And just taking a few rounds of that deep, slow breathing, making sure that your exhale is just as long as your inhale. And thinking about really rooting down into the ground beneath you. So growing heavy in your seat, maybe even moving the flesh out from underneath you so that you can really feel your sits bones resting on the chair or on the ground underneath you. And if your feet are flat on the ground, really letting them almost feel so heavy that they're sinking into the ground underneath you. And just continuing this nice, gentle belly breathing as we start moving into our Nadi Shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. So in order to do this, and I realize I asked you to close your eyes, but you might have to pop them back open just to see what I'm doing. You want to take your pointer and your middle finger and place them in between your eyebrow area. And you're going to have your hand down, but I want to be careful about blocking my mouth so that you can hear me. And then you want to take your ring and your pinky finger and bend them, and then you'll leave your thumb sticking out. So you're going to use your thumb to block one side, one nostril, and then you're going to use your ring and pinky finger to block the other. So the way this works is with your fingers in between your eyebrows, you're going to start out by blocking your right nostril and breathing in through your left nostril. You can pause here while you block the left nostril and open up the right nostril, and then exhale through the right nostril. Then you're going to inhale back through the right nostril, block that right nostril as you unblock the left nostril, and exhale back out. Let's do that 2 more times together. So you're inhaling back in through the left nostril, blocking the left nostril, unblocking the right, and then breathing out through the right nostril. Breathe back in through the right nostril, block in that right nostril, and exhale through the left nostril. Inhale one more time through the left nostril. Block the left nostril and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right nostril. Block that right nostril and exhale through the left. And now drop your hands back down to your lap and resume your deep belly breathing. Maybe taking a moment to notice whether anything has changed in your body, if you feel more relaxed, more alert, maybe a combination of the two. And then on your next inhale, if your eyes are closed, you can just flutter them back open. And like I said, that breathing practice is called Nadi Shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. Now, if you're doing this as a practice to kind of help ground and also maybe kind of help, stimulate the mind, especially if you feel like you're kind of spacing out or you're feeling that a little bit of a detached feeling, you might want to do about 5 to 10 rounds for it to be fully effective. Like I said, starting on the left, exhaling through the right, inhaling through the right, and exhaling through the left. And that counts as 1 round. So you'd want to do 5 to 10 full rounds where you're starting and ending on the left side. And I would hope that regardless of what kind of experience you're having, whether you're feeling really angry and frustrated right now, if you're feeling anxious, you're feeling a little down, or you're feeling detached, or maybe some combination of those, because we also sometimes cycle when we're experiencing trauma or a sense of grief. That breathing exercise will be helpful. And in the future, I'd like to just do a recording dedicated to that where I'm actually leading you through the practice. But I wanted to have the opportunity, at least for this video, to show you a couple different things that you could try. But if you do want more information on any of them, please leave a comment below, and I'm happy to comment or even record a follow-up video that may focus more on any one of those areas. Um, and if not, I hope this was helpful, and I hope you'll come back soon to see my next posting and my next video. Take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself because we've all been through a lot. And I hope that as the days go on, they'll be brighter for each one of us. Take care. Namaste.